Picture this. You're just about to take a sip of a perfectly brewed cup of premium tea. You know the feeling, right? The steam is rising, the aroma absolutely fills the room, and you are just anticipating that comforting first taste. Well, let's dive right into this explainer, because today we are pulling back the curtain on one of the most famous beverages in the entire world, Assam tea. We're going to explore not just how it gets its world-renowned flavor, but the incredibly complex, very human story behind every single cup.
If you know your tea, you know that premium Assam has a very specific sensory profile. Experts will throw around words like malty or full-bodied and describe its signature color as deep amber. It is a bold, strong cup of tea for sure. But there is one specific word that comes up over and over again when connoisseurs grade the absolute best Assam tea out there.
And that word is briskness. Now, you might be thinking of temperature, but briskness isn't about heat at all. It's this hallmark astringent quality that creates a totally lively, refreshing sensation right in your mouth. It's the snap. It's that vibrancy that makes the tea feel alive on your palate rather than flat. Which brings us to the core question of today's explainer. Why exactly does premium, orthodox Assam tea taste so distinct? Like, what actually creates that lively briskness and complex flavor that has been prized all over the globe for 2 centuries? To figure that out, we literally have to look at how it's made.
So, tea leaves in Assam are basically processed in one of 2 ways. First, you have the CTC method, which stands for crush, tear, curl. Introduced back in the 1930s, this is a machine-driven process. It literally churns the leaves into these little small pellets, creating a super robust, quick-brewing tea that's perfect if you're making a milk-based drink like masala chai. But then you have the orthodox method. This is the traditional way, and it is a totally different ballgame. It involves careful, meticulous hand-picking and gentle rolling to preserve the whole leaf. Because the leaf stays intact instead of being torn to shreds, all those natural essential oils and complex flavor compounds are locked in. This delicate manual process is exactly what gives us that bold, brisk flavor usually enjoyed without a drop of milk. So really, the distinct taste of premium orthodox tea is fundamentally tied to human hands carefully plucking those leaves.
Section 1. The hands that pick.
And when we talk about human hands, we are talking about a staggering 700,000 workers in Assam today. It is a massive, bustling human engine that drives this agricultural giant. Those 700,000 people are the absolute backbone of a global powerhouse. Assam produces between 650 and 700 million kilograms of tea every single year. To put that crazy number into perspective, that is more than half of India's entire tea production. And what's really interesting is that modern growth is being heavily driven by small tea growers, who now contribute over 50% of the state's total output.
The economic footprint here is just vast. Just looking at the 2023 to 2024 period, the export value of Indian teas stood at an impressive $781.79 million US. We're talking about tea that reaches over 120 countries, with top destinations being places like Iraq, the UAE, Russia, and the USA. It is a highly lucrative global commodity.
But when we zoom in from those billion-dollar global economics to the actual daily reality on the ground, a very different, much harsher picture emerges. This plucking workforce, it's predominantly female. Over 60% are women. For 8 to 10 hours a day, they are on their feet, balancing incredibly heavy baskets on their heads. They have to handpick a daily quota of 20 to 60 kilograms of leaves. Their breaks are strictly monitored. Sometimes so strictly, they're forced to use the tea bushes as toilets because there are no basic facilities. And for all this grueling manual labor, the daily wage ranges from just 150 to 250 rupees. On top of that, these communities face severe health crises, including almost universal anemia and tragically high maternal mortality rates.
Section 2. Roots of the plantations.
To understand how this system came to be, we have to look back at the colonial legacy. Back in 1823, Major Robert Bruce discovers the native tea plant in Assam's Brahmaputra Valley. Fast forward a bit to 1838, the first Assam tea is auctioned in London, and boom, the global craze begins. But the British colonizers hit a snag. Local agricultural workers were scarce because, well, they had their own fields to tend to. So starting around 1837, the British forcibly began bringing in indentured laborers from the Chota Nagpur Plateau in central India. Decades later, by the 1950s, leaders like Jaipal Singh Munda were already fighting for these workers to get scheduled tribe status. And as you'll see, that fight continues all the way to 2019 and right up to today.
This quote from historian Ramaswar Kurmi really hits the nail on the head regarding the dark origins of the 7 million strong community we now call the tea tribes. He points out that these people were essentially kidnapped, forcibly migrated, and treated like slaves in a land they didn't know. Yet because of this forced migration by the British, they've historically been labeled as migrants. It's a complete erasure of their indigenous roots, and it's a label that heavily impacts their legal and social standing even now.
Section 3. The fight for identity. Right now, these tea garden communities are legally classified as Other Backward Caste, or OBC. The problem is, that's a massive category, making up over 25% of Assam's population, so competition for any job or educational spot is incredibly fierce. What they are demanding is Scheduled Tribe, or ST status. Getting ST status would be a real game changer. It would provide them with vital constitutional quotas for higher education, government jobs, and scholarships. They argue they absolutely meet the criteria for this, based on their distinct culture, their isolation in the estates, and historical marginalization.
For the youth growing up in these gardens, this is way more than just a legal label. It's literally their ticket out of the plantation. Just listen to Neha Sagar, a first-generation graduate. She says, "We want to end this cycle of poverty endured by our families for generations." Young people like Neha have worked incredibly hard to earn their degrees, but they find themselves trapped by that tea tribe identity, struggling to get hired outside the very gardens where their families have done backbreaking labor for 200 years.
But the road to getting that recognition, it is blocked by some major hurdles. Aside from the generational poverty and severe health crises we talked about, the political reality is messy. Politicians made huge promises to grant ST status during the 2014 and 2016 elections. But those promises remain unfulfilled. An ST amendment bill actually passed the Rajya Sabha in 2019, but it was never fully enacted. A big reason for this stall is apprehension from Assam's 9 existing ST communities. They make up about 12% of the state's population, and there's an understandable fear that adding 7 million more people to the ST list would severely dilute the quotas they currently rely on. It's a highly delicate, heavily stalled political gridlock.
So, the next time you steep a cup of premium deep amber brisk Assam tea, maybe just pause for a second. That distinct, complex flavor that the whole world loves, it's only possible because of that delicate hand-picking process. A process resting squarely on the shoulders of a historically marginalized community that is still fighting for their basic identity and a way out of generational poverty. As we enjoy the incredible flavor of hand-picked Orthodox tea, we really have to ask ourselves, what is the true cost of that distinct taste? Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we will see you next time.